Welcome to Afros and Audio's Black History Month interview series. My name is Talib Jasir, founder and CEO of Afros and Audio Podcast Festival and the Vanguard Podcast Network. I'm excited to spotlight 29 outstanding indie podcast creatives and professionals who answer the call to be a part of the series. My guest today is Anthony Weaver. Welcome and thank you for being here. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely, man. So first up, let's talk about That Wallet podcast. Can you share with us your journey from Baltimore to becoming a financial educator through your podcast About That Wallet?
Yeah. So the reason why About That Wallet came about was because I was just coming out of a relationship, a 6-year long relationship where I felt pointless. I felt helpless, and to the point where it was degrading, where I felt like, why am I even here today? And I had to be out on my own and actually find myself again and trying to build my confidence. And one of the easiest ways that I helped find my confidence was through my finances. I was trying to understand the controllables that I had that I can actually take control of. And one of the things that I realized is that my finances. And then as I was learning through my finances, started remembering some of the old money habits that I grew up with, helped me understand what is saving, how to stretch a dollar, what does couponing look like, how to shop online and when to shop, and understand the different segments and cycles when it comes to sales. And in order for me to actually try to put food on the table, wash my clothes, the basic things that you really don't think about when you're living in a cohabited household. But when you're coming out on your own, all that stuff falls on you again. And trying to get into that mindset of this is it. Like, you got to make a way to make it happen. And going through that process and started writing things down, I started utilizing calendars, because that's when we look at a calendar all the time. We know when the bills are due. And I figured I need something physically in hand and write it down. So that's what I did to start building my relationship with myself and also my finances. And I would say I did that for about like a year and some change. And as I was learning a lot of the stuff, I was just talking to people and constantly talking to them about the finances and the things that I actually wish that I've known sooner. It's just that they got tired of me talking about it. So I was like, you know what? Let me just start hitting the record button and start recording it myself. And lo and behold, a lot of people could actually resonate with my story that I've never met. And for them to actually give me some feedback and say, continue to keep doing, and I like what you're doing, and I like to hear your story, I started adding on more everyday people. So I have everyday people on my show to talk about their habits and their finances, because we all know how to make money. We just have a problem of spending it. How are we going to utilize it to further our wealth and further the things that we really want and enjoy in life, and actually spend time with our families? So that's what the About That Wallet is about. It's about helping people build strong financial habits in order for you to actually build the life and live the life that you want and deserve.
Well, that's a good story, man. A lot of times podcasts get created in one or two reasons. You feel like there's another avenue for you to spit your knowledge, right? Instead of the people that you know and love,
Yeah.
right? Who've heard it all before and are like, okay, already. And then the other piece is this cathartic way of almost discovering yourself, discovering your passion, discovering what it is that you want to talk about and contribute to the world. So I love that story, man. That's great. So growing up in impoverished situation in Baltimore, as you mentioned in your intake, how did this shape your interest in finances and ultimately lead to another reason for the podcast?
Yeah, great question. The thing about when it comes to feeling like you're different, and what I've seen, I've actually lost family members to drugs. I've lost family members to alcohol, and actually like dealing with depression and everything like that. You actually have to take a moment and realize, or even think about it, is this really what I want for myself? And how can I actually get out of that situation? So one of the things is that reading a book, I hated reading, because, in the city, it was like, hey, we want to go out and party, we want to go out and play, have a great time. And I have to say, I haven't picked up a book when I was getting even out of college. Like, I even got my master's degree and everything. But It was just picking up a book that was outside of the norm that all of my friends were talking about, outside of my environment that everybody was consuming. And I started changing my focus into what it is that's out there. Because granted, I didn't have the money to fly anywhere. So the books were my only escape at the time. Because I never heard of a podcast until like 2008. So throughout that whole time frame, I'm like, all right, well, let me pick up a book. Let me listen to other people. Let me listen to the elders. What do they wish they would have known sooner? What are they doing to maintain their finances? And start having those conversations. Because when you're younger, you always hear you should stay in your child's place, stop being in grown folks' business, having these conversations. But the adult is the first leader to help you as a child to develop those skills. And that's one of the things I think that's a missing piece. I would say more than likely a culture thing, not so much the environment, if that makes sense.
No, it makes sense. A lot of people don't have the capacity, the knowledge, right, to impart this wisdom. They try and figure their own shit out. So a lot of times, and I think this is a part of even your purpose or your mission, is that a lot of times our freedoms, whether it's financial or emotionally, mentally, is connected to the liberation of the people who we know and love, right? The elders, even living and being an example. So that's great, man. Are the folks that you wish you could have supported as you were growing up, or in retrospect, you think about a family member or what have you, and it's like, if only you knew this, if only you knew how to get on the other side of that. Do you feel like you are reaching them through the podcast? Have you checked in?
Well, like I say, people are in your life for a reason and for a season. So those people that were in my life back then are obviously not like in the everyday consumption, because when you start reaching new heights and your mindsets shift, you're not in a struggle mentality anymore. You're more in an abundance of mentality. And when you start thinking outside of what is possible, like what you can only see, and start thinking of grander things and how to improve your environment, you don't want to stay in that environment because you start looking at the level of effort that it will take you. And if the people aren't listening, you just know it's going to go back to the same way it was. But actually listening to, as I've gotten older, I would say that I wouldn't go back and change anything. I don't have any regrets because it actually helped me form to where I am today. I would say if anything, maybe in the collegiate realm, when I'm already old enough to should know better, I would like to change that part of the process. But actually, I probably wouldn't even have a podcast by then if it was the case. So, yeah.
Got it. Got it. All right. So your curiosity about people's financial habits is intriguing. Looking at your intake and your submission, you talked a lot about that. So how does this curiosity influence the content and style of your podcast episodes?
Oh, I mean, as a podcast host, you have to be excited about the person, even if it's not the person. You're excited about the topic, because, like, say if you go to an amusement park, why do you go to an amusement park for? What? Because you're excited about a new ride, right? They might have the best funnel cake in that particular county or that state, or you want to try the best rides. You going there for the experience, and providing that experience is something that I love to do and have those conversations with everybody. Like for me, before we even hit record, I was asking you about how'd you get started. Like, I'm naturally interested in knowing about how you actually formulate your ideas and where you're going, because granted, we might have this conversation, but I can also bring it up to somebody else who might be in that struggle right now. They just don't know where to start. And that's the thing. It's like everybody has a starting point, because I actually interviewed, small example, but it's the only person that ever came on the show that talked about that they wanted to be a mother by choice. I had nobody ever talk about that, like going through the sperm bank, getting the test results, and going through all of that on her own, and to actually have a healthy baby. Now, going through that process, who am I to say like, oh, you're wrong for doing it? No, I'm naturally curious. Like, this is the exciting piece, because you get to hear stories that a lot of people don't get to hear. And I know people say books, but I think right after books, podcasts are like right second behind it, as far as if you want to get some information, and stuff that people aren't really talking about on the Beltway news or in your circle, the podcast or even a book is the best way to go. So that's what I'm saying. Just got to be excited about the topic.
Yeah, I agree. Podcasting is a great source of entertainment, news, perspectives, experiences, all that great stuff. And it's up to us to make it more of that default source of all of those
Yeah.
things because it's not yet, right? It's still YouTube and television and radio, and podcast is growing. And again, it's a responsibility of us as podcasters to really push podcasting in that way. So I love your philosophy on that. It's important, right? We're
Yeah.
podcasters. Let's push it. So can you tell us about how your experiences, such as connecting with other financial content creators and speaking at FinCon, has impacted your personal and professional growth?
Ooh, well, I could tell you professionally, it has helped me in a way that I was able to meet a lot of financial influencers. Like, I'm not sure if this is on the video, but if you guys listen on the audio, I have two books front facing. It's by Tiffany Aliche, Made Whole, and Jamila Safrant, which is the Your Journey to Financial Freedom. And I met these two amazing women who are actually going out in the world and actually creating policies around finances. And I know Tiffany, she's been around for a while, but she's been actually in New Jersey pushing financial literacy for the high schoolers and actually got it up through the House and everything like that and fully passed. So now it's a state law that they actually have to teach financial literacy inside the classrooms. So without the podcast, I don't think any of this would have been possible because I just always been hearing about them. I listened to them on podcasts, and Jamila Safrant was my first female podcast host that I've ever listened to. And to actually meet her in person was like almost like a dream come true. So and especially because they are women of color in this financial space, which is rare to see, and having that strong empowerment, it's like it's ridiculous on not ridiculous, it's almost like it's a shock to my system that having a platform such as a podcast just to spread the knowledge of financial education provide these different opportunities so that now when I go to publish an actual financial, I call it a habit journal. So I created a habit journal that you can get on Amazon now so that you can start writing down your habits and start doing that. So it pushed me to say like, okay, if these people can do it, why can't I? And why can't I go ahead on and have a voice in this space? And so for those of you who are listening and you feel as though your voice isn't heard, it's okay. Somebody's listening and they are willing to support you. I do not like that word where they say hustle like G's and lasagna, but you got to be out there. You got to say something because if you want help and you want to get further, you need to say something in order for people to hear you. Even if saying something, even if you are mute, you can actually write it out. It's okay. Like write something, say something. People will hear you. People are willing to learn. People are willing to help.
Absolutely, man. It's opening up yourself to the world, right? You've got
Yeah.
to get off the sidelines if you're going to be a part of the game. And that's where the progression and expansion exists, not over here waiting to get called up or waiting to put yourself in. Go ahead and get in there. So I respect that, man. And when you talk about people supporting you, thinking about the transference of that, the podcast supporting others, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so could you share a story or experience where your podcast significantly helped a listener or your audience?
Wow. Let's see. Because I have so many. One of the things that I do on my podcast and doing my live shows, I actually do book giveaways. And one person said that because I gave them a book of an author that came on the show, because like I said, I meet all my authors, and they were up there and they gave away the book. They were actually able to purchase their first home. And because of the book that I gave them for free, they actually gave them because they won it during the raffle, but they were actually able to purchase their first home. Another one was that they started having, because of the conversations that I was bringing up, especially during the holiday season, they were able to have financial conversations during the dinner table. And they said that they really helped the communications out with their family. So just from that, even though they not recorded feedback, It's just that people are coming to me and they actually really do appreciate the topics, the conversations that's happening, and that it's really helping them feel comfortable to bring up specific topics with their family and friends, and even to the point where they actually share the episode with them. And I can't thank them enough. And I'm not sure who's going to hear this or when they're going to hear it, even if they're going to hear it today and they don't get back to either you and I and say, like, you know what, this particular episode really helped me in my life to build a confidence or even start looking at my habits that I do day to day. That will be so impactful and so powerful. And even like for us, I know you and I as content creators, I guess you could say, in this space, we love to see that immediate action, but ultimately this is a long-term play. We actually looking to help out the individual, and if that individual can help the next individual, that's all I can ask for. I'm sure that's all you can ask for as well, because I mean we here to help, and that's it.
Absolutely. It's a ripple effect in a lot of ways. In that ripple, you can't see how far it goes, but it's going. And the nature of people is to lurk, right? That is the nature, and not speak up and lets people know immediately. I watched it, I listened to it. A month from now, coming back to you and saying what you gave me a month ago has that doesn't typically happen, right? It's a rarity that people are willing to say, "I'm here, I listened, I watched, it impacted me." So being confident, understanding that the work that you're doing is important work, and that's happening whether or not somebody has verbally said it or not, is important. And I really respect that about the content that you're creating. And speaking of the content, just listening to you speak, you mentioned starting with your conversations and knowing that I have something to say based on my journey into my own financial freedom or understanding literacy. So what I think I heard you say is you started off solo and then went into interview, and you also now incorporate live shows. So talk about that journey, and how you decided on your formatting, how you've grown this, the way in which you engage and create your content.
Okay. Well, it started off with just myself, and I think I did the first 3 or 4 episodes by myself. But I was also looking for guests as well, more than likely psychologists, because I figured if I'm talking about habits, I need to pretty much understand how people operate. But because I also have a teacher's background, we also talk about the pedagogy and dealing with what how do people actually get to that next level of knowledge. So it started turning into more practical knowledge. And so having those different psychologists coming on early on, and then I was like, I really enjoyed having those conversations. So let me just start talking about the friends or family, like anybody else who listens to the show. Like, would you mind coming on? And started doing that more. And then I think I started creating an intake form so people can actually start becoming guests on the show. Guests on the show allowed me to start gearing up my questioning and everything like that. So I started putting the pre-questions out there and stuff like that because I was new and was learning like what questions to start asking people. So now I'm at to the point of just putting out the flow of the show, and then we can just flow with the conversation so that the guests will actually know how the show goes, what to expect, and that's where they are today. So it actually provides an impact. So I try to do it almost like if you watch a movie, any movie. For those of you who are listening right now or watching, that's pretty much going to mess up all the movies that you watch from this point on. Within every movie, every show, within the first 15 minutes, something's going to happen to the main character. Once that happens, that take the whole show to a whole nother aspect. So that's what I try to capture in my podcast. 15 minutes is a long time when it comes to a podcast because most podcasts are only about 15 minutes long. So you have to capture that moment within the first 3 minutes, if that. So if you can't capture that aha moment or that tragic moment within that first 2 to 3 minutes, you pretty much can lose your audience. And because of that's what I've been slowly adjusting my show to be that way, because now I'm looking into analytics and stuff like that because I'm getting more listeners. Before, I was just happy even one person listened to the show. But now that I'm getting quite a few repeat people coming to the show, mostly because of me, but also because of the guests that I bring on the show, it's been really helpful from that point.
That's awesome, man. What season are you in?
I am in season 4, coming up on season 5, starting June.
Congratulations, man. That's a big deal to be in a space and to still be making it something that fits not only yourself so you can keep it fresh and exciting and wanting to continue this, but being willing to learn as you grew your podcast is really important, especially for people who are starting out and even veteran podcasters, because getting past your first season is a big deal. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I
Go
was
ahead.
going to say that starting a podcast, I was going back and forth because some of your big top podcasters, they don't have seasons. They just do episodes straight through. And I was in the process of deciding if I want to do seasons or not. So I started to do seasons. And then I think just last year, I was like, why am I doing seasons? It's too much to keep up with. So now what I do is actually just write down the number, but I still put the seasons because people are so used to it. But looking at the number, because people keep asking me, well, how many episodes do you have? I'm up to 229 episodes now. So it's like over 100 guests on my show, and been doing this for about 3 years now. So it's a lot of work. Like you said, just keeping that excitement. I just love learning about people in there. What are they doing? So
No, that's cool, man. That's cool. So you kind of hit on it, but let's get real intentional about it. So, based on that experience, right, of you learning in 229 episodes, again, major congratulations on that. What key advice would you give to other podcast hosts or content creators looking to make a meaningful impact in the financial education space specifically?
if they're looking at the financial space specifically, or just make an impact in general on their content, is that what you want to go with? Okay, so they're to make a meaningful impact with that content, they have to listen to the audience. If they don't have an audience right now and they're trying to look at what other people are saying, go to the people that they already follow that are already in the space that they're planning on talking about. So, say for me in the financial space, everybody knows bigger pockets. Bigger pockets is in real estate. You can go on their real estate platform and see what people are asking about. Well, what credit score do I need? How much money do I need for a down payment? What is hard money lending? What are the other strategies that I can use in my state? So you can actually have a state specific podcast and actually talk about these particular things in your state. So if you want to add an impact, you actually saying like, hey, this is for this particular region. This is how you get through it. These are the educations and terms that are available to you. Now, understanding that, you're actually you're sharing what you found out directly to your audience and adding that impact right away. So you're not looking at a global thing, you're looking more regional. And if you're niched down to your region, you'll get more than what you expect for. You'd be surprised because, like, think about Nike. I'm using Nike because they do like a lot of other stuff. But when they started, they were a shoe company. That's all they did, make shoes. Now you got clothing and advertisements on sports gears. Like, no, but if you niche down to what exactly you love and do and keep it regionally or stay true to your art and craft, people will start seeking you out. So like they say, be too big to not be ignored anymore. And that's pretty much what you want in your content.
Absolutely. And when it comes to audience, regional and local fans create nationwide fans because that word of mouth, they continue to push it and share it. And so, yes, that's really great advice, man. So you mentioned, and I want you to really, your expertise is in finance, right? And so a lot of folks, right, content creators, creatives, or people just from our demographic in general, it's not monolithic, but financial literacy is something that we get to acknowledge. And so, could you expand on the importance of understanding one's triggers to change financial habits and perhaps provide an example?
Yeah. So the triggers, let's go back to Charles Duhigg's book. I always got to pull out resources because I got plenty of books. The Power of Habit. So when it comes to Power of Habit, really all you need is just the first 2 chapters. You get the whole book. It's just the rest of it is really just stories. But in this book, he really talks about the habit loop, which is talking about the cue, the routine, and the reward, which is pretty much a habit loop. So when it comes to the cues and the reason why people like to spend, you got to think about all the ads and everything like that you get. In this book, he actually talks about the lovely Colgate story. So we all know that you can actually brush your teeth with like baking soda, right? You'll be fine. But you don't get that freshness that you feel in your breath and everything like that. Or you don't get that minty taste. You know what I'm saying? You don't get that. So when it comes to buying Colgate, what they did was advertise to what you do for your routines. So yes, your trigger is like you rub your tongue across your teeth and you feel all gritty. That's how they advertised. Colgate started talking about that. It was like, oh yeah, you feel that grime on your teeth? Use Colgate and brush your teeth. And now you can go around and your reward is that you have fresh breath plus clean teeth. Baking soda can provide you the clean teeth, but it don't provide you with that fresh breath. It starts smelling like, I don't know, it smells like cardboard or something. I don't know. But having that leap, and when you start thinking about what triggers you to spend at all, you need to start looking at what is it in your life that you're trying to achieve. So in order for it to actually stick, you need to start thinking about your feelings in order for it to stick. So say somebody who's drinking, right? You're feeling lonely or you're hungry or you're just angry at something, or you're even tired, and you'll just go head on and go to like the liquor store or whatever. Like, I'm going to happy hour because I want to. And the reason why you're going is because that's what you do. That's your routine. And then your reward is that, all right, cool, I'm drunk. I got this out my system. I feel better. The thing about it when it comes to your finances, you spend more during those times that you're hungry, angry, lazy, or tired, right? So being not lazy, lonely when you're lonely. So it's in a sense, it's the acronym called HALT, HALT. And that's when you spend the most. Some people say that they spend the most when they're happy. That could be true, because if you think about it, weddings, $30,000, $50,000 just for a wedding. I'm just saying the ballpark here, 80%. Yeah, let's go with that. Because you can, like in Maryland, is like $35 to go get married and call it a day. Like you don't need anything else. Maybe a ring or something like that you can get from Amazon. Whatever makes you feel good. But understanding, like, ultimately, what is your reward is what you're looking for. What is the end result? And when it comes to our spending habits, we need to make sure that we decide, why are we spending it in the first place? What is my routine when I purchase this item? And what is the end goal? So understanding what those triggers are, and the ads get you all the time. We know the jingles. You can say ba da ba ba ba, and then you can finish the rest, right? Because of that, it's ingrained in us at that point, because we all hear it over and over and over again. It's like you're listening to the radio. The songs that you think are horrible the first time you hear it, but yet they keep playing it and your foot start tapping. And your foot start tapping, now you start moving your shoulders, because you know when you're tired, you only move your shoulders. And then next thing you know, you start singing all the songs and blasting it at full volume, because the radio continued to push it out there, continue to put it in your face, continue to, I don't put it inside your environment so that everybody else is going to be involved. So then you're going to feel like you're left out. It's okay. And again, go back to feeling lonely. Like, you're going to wind up spending your money. If you're not spending your money, you're spending your time. And that is one of the things that my show kind of helps you realize what those are, so that you can adjust your routines around it. So if you hear that song again, before you like a song that you really don't like, you can say, hey, I really don't like this song. I'm going to avoid it as much as possible. Just cut the feed.
All right, man. Got it. And I wanted you to share a bit of your insight and your expertise, because it's important, right? This is the work. The podcast is the byproduct of the knowledge and expertise. And that's what we find inside of independent podcasting, is that there are these folks who may not be put on iHeart front page that says this is the number one podcast in America, but there is a lot of good content and a lot of good knowledge to be learned and understood inside the indie podcast space. So thank you for sharing that. We're going to seal it up in a few minutes, but how do you see the role of platforms like YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter in engaging with your audience and the wider podcast community?
In the podcast space, if you think about it, I believe the current stats are 49% of podcasts are found through YouTube. So you're doing yourself a disservice by not even being on YouTube. Granted, there's a billion plus people who are on YouTube and at this platform, but podcasting on its own is still growing. And I think that getting even a small pocket of space and claim it, I would say, on YouTube is the best thing, because you can look at some of the popular, at the time of this recording, the latest craze was the Cat Williams interview. Even though it's like 2.5 hours long, a lot of people still tuned in within the first week. So again, I never listened to his podcast because Shannon Sharp is not my kind of entertainment. And I usually don't listen to gossip on that level. But because of they were talking about some of the finances and habits that people were doing when it comes to the movie industry or even the show business industry, that intrigued me to kind of figure out, well, what type of habits that people are using or doing when they watching these shows. Like, what are they doing after they watch these shows? Are they taking action? Or are they just listening to it and then they sharing about it? Or they just shared it to somebody else and like, hey, listen to this. Like, that's one of the things I have to say that YouTube provides that a lot of these audio platforms don't do. Because you looked at the reactions of the guests, you look at the reactions of the host. If that was never a video feed and it was just strictly audio, you would have not gotten as much feedback or as much press as it did in its current state if it's just strictly audio.
Yeah, I agree. It was something about the animation of Cat that just brought it home, right? A lot of ways, and the way in which he delivers his message. And I agree with you. And one of the things that's coming up for me is that I'm a life coach, and one of my philosophies is the 4 C's in creation and productivity. And that's create, chill, contribute, and consume. And just really talking about the consuming piece. And you mentioned it, talking about movies and talking about like this podcast episode is consuming with that intentionality, right? If I'm going to sit and watch it for 2.5 hours or two, whatever it is, what can I gain from it? What can I glean from it that can support me in creating my own content? Because that is the responsibility and the work that we're doing is as a creator. So I really love that you consume with that intentionality of what can I take from this that can then help me to create more content or do's and don'ts or likes and dislikes or whatever it is. But so I really, really like that you do. That's awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So as we celebrate Black History Month, how do you think podcasts like yours contribute to the representation and empowerment of Black voices in media and finance?
I can tell you this, because of my podcast, I've been featured on Experian. So Experian's been really pushing out financial content, especially on Twitter. So if you ever just go on Twitter or X and type in hashtag credit chat, you'll see a lot of me on there, because I'm usually one of the few, actually the only Black person on the Black male, I guess you could say, on that particular panel. And because of this platform and me continuously sharing my voice and sharing the impact of how finances have on the Black community, the Black and brown community, has really provided insight into our spaces, because we're a lot more what's going on than what you see on TV. We don't go around bashing each other. We can have decent conversations. We're not the exceptional Black person that you see, but sometimes I do get excited to say that I'm glad I'm the first person that you can look at to say not all Black people are the same, or not all people of color act the same way. It's just that what you see are the select few that the system wants to continue to pump out for entertainment. They're entertainers for a reason. Like, we're here as everyday people. We try to make a living, keep the lights on, put food on the table just like everybody else. Like we live, some people live paycheck to paycheck. Some people just can't get out of that mindset or their environment that they're in because they don't know the different choices that they have. And because the voice that we provide to each other is different. So my audience will resonate with what I say. If you try to say your voice to my audience, you probably lose half of them. You know what I'm saying? So every person's voice is it matters. So I could be saying the same thing and I could just say it differently. Some people like flavor in their conversation, so they might curse a lot on their podcast. That's what they like. They enjoy that type of environment and that type of comedic relief or that flavor of conversation. So when it comes to having a black person or person of color that you can resonate and you like, oh, they look like me and they talking about finances, I can relate to them. I grew up in a impoverished neighborhood. Like I had a young mother or a young father at the time. Oh, you in a single parent household. Like how did you navigate that timeline? Like what did you do to get out of it? Because some people are like some of my audience, I'll say majority of them are women and they have children and they just trying to figure out what can I do with my child? Now that I'm making a little bit of money, I'm able to save it. I know how to lock my credit down. I'm trying to now build up for life, build up not life insurance, but looking for retirement. Now they get into that in between generation where they got to take care of the parent and their child. So having a voice for the people who actually been through that, it's a lot easier to reflect and see yourself inside their stories. And this is the reason why I do what I do, because it's too much out there to feel like you're alone. And there's too many people on this earth to feel as though your situation is unique. Somebody's been through it out of all these years, whether they're dead or alive. Somebody's been through it. We can just get their voices out there, be heard, and let's go ahead on and continue to have that conversation that aren't really happening in your close environment, because a lot of people are afraid to share their story or to share that they are not doing as well as they are perceived to be. So this is the reason why I think it's as important to have Black voices being heard throughout the year, not just highlighted strictly on the Black history. Because to me, Black history is every day, because I'm looking in the mirror and that's it. And living proof of that you can't do this alone. We all got here with somebody else. Somebody made this microphone. I mean, I didn't make it. Like somebody made these lights. Like you can't do this alone. You have to ask, and somebody out there with the skill and the know-how will more than likely help you out to get to that next level. So I just say, like, I hope that if anything that you hear today and you want to take away with something is that you're not alone. We're here to listen. And if you want to share your story, just shoot us an email and we'll make sure we amplify and we can have those candid discussions. So,
Yeah, man, that's awesome, man. I love that response. So, finally, Anthony, is there anything specific that you want to promote today, right? Any future plans that you want the audience to know about? And then let us know where people can find you and the work that you do and about that Wallet podcast.
yeah. When it comes to promoting anything, honestly, I just really want to promote that everybody just live happy and healthy lives and continue to learn about your habits and have critical thinking around what you hear on the news and what you listening to people. Not everybody's out to get you. It's okay. Some people just there honestly really want to learn about you and trying to find out ways that they can help. Far as what's going on with me coming up, I guess I mentioned earlier, but I do have a habit journal that's available out there. If you go to Amazon.com, just search for Habit Journal Anthony Weaver, and it'll be the top one. It's a lion on the front. You can't miss it. And far as listening to the podcast, I go live every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. We do giveaways. I usually have some of my financial friends come on the show. They are certified financial counselors. We have certified financial accountants come on. We have accredited financial coaches, just pretty much the gamut. Everyday people like you and I, other podcasters. Like we just have a great time. And other authors that I have on it that I've met in person, so they will usually come on and help promote the book. And I usually buy the book and I'll ship it to you if you happen to win during those prizes. So we just have a good time. And you can actually find all of this at aboutthatwallet.com. And I'm most active on Instagram, and Twitter. So that's where I'm mostly active at. And you can follow at About That Wallet.
All right, man. Well, this has been a great conversation. You've given, I would say, like 3 mini master classes inside of this. So it's a great value. And again, it's been great to meet you and to learn more about you specifically and also about that wallet. It's hard to not say about that wallet. So, but yeah, man, it's been great to get to know you and hear more about your story. So thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate you being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely, man. I'm going to close this out. You just stay right there for me, all right? I want to give a big thanks to our Afros in Audio and Black Podcast Association members for supporting our commitment for community and collaboration. If you'd like to join the Black Podcasters Association, the link will be in the description. And if you want to join us at the 6th annual Afros in Audio Podcast Festival, visit afrosinaudio.com. Follow Afros in Audio at all social media channels, and you can find and follow me at Talib Jasir on Instagram. Thanks again, Anthony, for being a part of Afros and Audio's Black History Month interview series. It's been a pleasure, man.
Thank you.